Hi everyone, this video is an exercise 12J question D. So we want to sketch the derivative function, and for the function in part D, first of all we need to um, notice that we have a minimum here when x is equal to -2, and then a maximum when x is equal to 0. So that means there are going to be two x-intercepts at the minimum points, at the minimum and maximum points. And also we have a horizontal asymptote at y is equal to 3, which is going to be a horizontal asymptote when y is equal to 0. The reason for that is as the curve basically as x tends to infinity, the curve tends to the asymptote, the horizontal asymptote at y is equal to 3, which basically means the gradient tends to 0. So because the gradient tends to 0, that's why in terms of the gradient graph, the curve is going to tend to 0 because the gradient is approaching 0. So these are the three main things that we should consider, as well as the usual procedure which says that if the gradient is decreasing, then that part of the curve is going to be below the x-axis and vice versa. So for the first part, from -infinity to -2, we have a negative gradient, which means it's going to be below the x-axis. So, and also we mentioned that at the point -2, we have x-intercept. So, combining with the fact that the gradient is negative, so it starts from below the x-axis, and it's going to be like this, right? Then between -2 and 0, it's the part that the gradient is positive, which means it is above the x-axis. So the gradient curve is above the x-axis for that part. Also, again, as we discussed, at the point x is equal to 0, we have a maximum. So that's another x-intercept. So remember that the gradient is going to, we have a positive gradient, but also x-intercept. So the curve is going to go like this because it has to intercept the x-axis, so that's why it goes down like this. Then maybe it's the kind of the challenging part of the question. So from 6 to plus infinity, the curve is basically, it has a negative gradient, so it has to be below the x-axis. But also remember that here there is the asymptote at y is equal to 3, which means the curve tends to the line y is equal to 3, which means its gradient tends to 0. So because if we don't take the asymptote part into consideration, we could just say, okay, because the gradient is negative, the curve should go like this because it's below the x-axis. But there's a problem with this one because this doesn't take the asymptote part into consideration, and we said that we are going to have an asymptote for the positive x values at x is equal to 0. So with that said, the curve is going to go down, and then it kind of flattens out and approaches the asymptote, which is x is equal to 0. That's just because while the gradient is negative and the curve is below the x-axis, it also has to reach the asymptote. So in this case, the asymptote is at y is equal to 3, but for the gradient curve is at y is equal to 0, because the gradient is ultimately going to be 0. So that's the final shape. Okay, so that's it for this video, and thank you for watching.